All right, everyone, welcome back to part two of episode two. I believe I was talking about, just about to say, pick on Dylan's point about how, yes, the Eagles are dead last 30-second pass attempts, but, if you're getting the production they are from Saquon and company in the run game, just continue with it. Why try to change it up if it's working? All that matters is winning. It can look ugly, it can look pretty. Doesn't matter as long as you win. That's one of the reasons I hate one of many reasons I hate the Chiefs so much. 'Cause all they do is just win close, ugly games. It feels like, but yeah, that was just a weird game with them and the Packers. A lot of people, reading the Green Bay comment section on social media, they're not obviously not happy with the performance. Some are putting some heat on LaFleur because he has a losing record in the playoffs now. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to the Packers. I think they're going to be better next year. They're still a super young team, but I think they also need a top tier receiver, kind of like we were talking about with the Chargers earlier.
Yeah, and also Christian Watson went down too. I mean, you can't rely on him to stay healthy anymore. But yeah, you're right about that. And what did we say about, the key to success in these games coming up? We said clock management and time management. And the Eagles are doing exactly that. If you look at, Saquon Barkley getting a lot of the runs, they're, working the ball into Jalen Hurts' hands sometimes. They're doing a really good job of mixing everything up. And at the end of the day, they're winning games, and that's how you win in the postseason. That's how you win in the regular season. Clock control, and they're doing that now.
Yeah, I do like the point you said about you want more play action passing though. That's something I've kind of noticed too. I don't know like the statistic, but it seems like when Shane Steichen was still there calling plays, at least in 22, when they had both Brown and Smith, they were doing a lot more play action passing than they are now. So I guess that's something they can improve on, especially with how you get play action going by running the ball effectively. So I think they should definitely do more of that moving forward.
Yeah, and the Packers were trying to stack the box in that game too. I saw Xavier McKinney go down and play in the box as like another third linebacker. They did try to stop the run. It was just very hard to because that offensive line is good. Saquon's good. I know in that last play he could have had a lot more yards, but he decided to go down early, and his stat line didn't end up as the big win. But you know what? Saquon's a team player, and he went down, and you know they're moving on. So clock control, running the ball, run game, even passing. This is all the way for them to win, and they continue to keep doing that, and they're going to continue to keep dancing if they keep doing that. So
Yeah, they're going to be a tough out for anyone because they can win in numerous ways. And yeah, clock management is key. Whenever they need a lengthy drive to chew clock, they do it every time, it seems like. But, at least the Packers defense played well. I really like Jeff Halfway this year. I think that defense is just going to get better and better. But going to be interesting to see where they go.
yeah,
Um,
I want to see them pursue a defensive line stud.
yeah.
I know that what's his name? The edge rusher on the Packers had a decent year this year. I forgot what his name is. It's blanking on me right now. But I would love to see them pursue a premier edge rusher or a premier interior guy, just to solidify that defense as a whole. On the offensive end, of course, weapons is also another big thing. I know that they have, Dontavian Wicks, they have Jaden Reed, they have uh oh my gosh, tight end, Runyon, Tunyon.
Oh,
Yeah.
Tucker Craft.
Oh, Tucker Craft. Yep, that's what I meant. Tucker Craft. Yeah, so like they have, a lot of weapons for that, but I think that they really need a solidified number one receiver that's going to stay healthy.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think they're in a good spot. I think they have a good amount of cap, so I think they're in a good spot. I think they're just going to get better and better. I think they're the second youngest team to make the playoffs, only behind the team before the 23 Packers. They're in a good spot, I think.
Yeah,
And they
however, I do want to say this. I need to see Jordan Love do better. Okay. I need to see him progress in his third year or excuse me, like fourth, fifth year now. I mean, he got an
yeah,
extension,
third
but
year starting.
yeah, third year starting. I need to see more of him, more of that from him. You sat behind Rodgers for a year. Um, I need to see more progression from Jordan Love. That's what I need from the next year.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause he was super hot and cold, it felt like this year. Toward the end of the year, like that Seattle game, he looked great. He wasn't turning over that much, but he was banged up this year. He had numerous injuries, so maybe he can co-spawn on that excuse. But he was super hot and cold this year. It was kind of like that the year before too. So, it'd be nice if he could put together just a consistent, of course, here or there you can have a rough game, but consistent season where you're not just hot and cold like week to week, it feels like.
Yeah, the team paid you $55 million a year.
Yeah.
Be that guy. Prove it. Prove it to everybody why you're that guy. The team shows a lot of confidence in you. Uh, go out and prove it. Show the
Yeah.
world why you're that franchise quarterback.
Yeah. Um, Next game was, I definitely think, the best of the wild cards, Washington, Tampa. Back and forth game. Washington, well, Tampa had the lead most of the game, I think, but Washington had the lead through parts. Tampa ended up coming up short, obviously. As soon as they had that like miscommunication, the bobbled snap, whatever it was, to Bucky Irving, the Commanders stuffed it, and Tampa settled for that field goal. I had a feeling that was pretty much the death blow there in that one for Tampa.
Yeah, I know in the very beginning of the game on the road, they were trying to get things going with those fourth down conversions. I know that there was like a 4th and 2 earlier in the game, a 4th and 5. They converted on the 4th and 5, and then the 4th and 2, they got in the field goal range and they went for it again. On that drive, I disagreed with it. But the next 4th and 2 that they had that they were going to convert, I agreed with because the offense was pushing the ball down the field. They showed a little bit more confidence, and it seemed like they were heading in the right direction in a flow state along with that offense. So I was like, okay, keep going on the second time. But the first time they didn't convert it. And I was very shocked because I thought that 4th and 5 was to get them into field goal range to kick that field goal. Their next game coming up against Detroit, every 4th and 4 inside the opponent's territory,
Oh yeah.
I think you have to uh
Oh yeah.
targets at the dartboard right here because this Detroit team is incredible. I mean, this is their home opener in the NFC, and the way that the Commanders need to beat this Detroit team is they need to be aggressive on the road. Okay. Like I said, they were aggressive against the Bucks. Okay. But that's the Bucks. They'll allow you to score. They have a average defense, right? This Detroit team, you need to put up points. This needs to be more touchdowns than ever. This needs to be a Terry McLaurin uh, legacy game where the offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, schemes up the right game plan against this secondary of Detroit. Is that intermediate routes for Terry McLaurin? Is this a deep threat where he pulls two guys down the field and somebody else is open underneath? Is it Zach Ertz? Is it Zacchaeus? These guys in this offensive scheme has to be played exceptionally well against this Detroit secondary because this isn't the Bucks. Like I said before, this is not the Bucks secondary. This is Detroit secondary. And are they that far off the Bucks secondary? Probably not. But that offense on Detroit scares you so much that you have to be aggressive against this defense. And the only way to win is in a shootout. I think. I think this game is going to be a very high scoring. Okay. It's going to be like the Bucks game last week, but it's only going to be high scoring if the Commanders can really stay with that aggressive approach against Detroit. However, try to not put yourself in bad situations. Okay. If it's 4th and 4 and anything longer than that from in your own territory, get rid of it. Try to pin them deep. Try to play that game. But field field dominance is going to determine like the field dominance is going to determine how this game's played. And the Commanders just need to keep putting the pressure on that defense and score touchdowns. They need to target Zach Ertz in the red zone. They need to use Terry McLaurin as a distraction, but then they also need him alongside as a big core piece in this game. So it's going to be interesting what the Commanders can draw up, and I'm very interested to see how Kingsbury can make this offense run.
Yeah. I agree 100%. They'll be going for it. If it's fourth and short, anything across the 50, I think they'll be going for it because they know this Lions team is going to be putting up a good amount of points. I mean, even in this game, obviously the Lions offense is better than the Bucks. And it felt like this game, the Bucks, even though they didn't put up, a bunch of points, felt like they were moving the ball pretty much whenever they wanted to, run, pass, whatever they wanted to do, even though they didn't put up a good amount of points. It just felt like I think the Bucks, the main reason they lost this game was because they only had one turnover. The jet sweep to Jalen McMillan that got fumble, that was a big one. Then the botch snap I mentioned to Bucky Irving. I think if those two plays don't happen, I think Tampa probably holds on in this game. Uh,
Yeah, and
yeah,
think about what you just said right there. Think about what you just said. You said one or two plays determine this game.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of thing in football is you need to have perfection to win in the postseason, especially against this Detroit team. You need to be can be no mistakes, no mistakes. The most if you limit the mistakes on your team, you win the game in most situations. Especially if you can score touchdowns with that. So with that being said, it's going to be a battle in Detroit. And I don't think Detroit's taking the Commanders lightly. And I think the Commanders are riding momentum into this game. And it's the Commanders versus the world right now in their aspect of how they can enter into this game because I think they're the biggest underdogs this week. And they need to put the pressure on Detroit as soon as they can when they walk into Ford Field.
yeah, yeah. I definitely think it's going to be. See, on paper, it should be a shootout. I definitely feel comfortable saying the Lions are going to score a bunch of points. I had them at 34. The Commanders, I definitely can see them making it a shootout, but I feel like, I don't know, on paper, the Lions defense should be allowing a lot more. I have them at 21, the Commanders, but I just kind of feel like this might be the game where it's like, okay, Washington, they've had a hell of a year, over exceeded expectations, but this is kind of the ceiling. Like, I don't think they're quite ready to compete with like the juggernaut in the Lions head. But I definitely can see it going down to the wire. If the Commanders do somehow win, like you said, I think they're going to need to be super aggressive, go for it on fourth down. And, it's like fourth and forever in their own territory or something like that. They're going to have to put up a bunch of points. Cliff Kingsbury's going to have to scheme up a hell of a game because I think the Lions are going to be putting up a bunch of points this week.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can't disagree with that. I mean, that secondary's not. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore came off of a not very good performance against Mike Evans. How is he going to respond in this game? How are the Commanders going to put themselves in a situation to where they can be the best version of themselves, right? And that's hard to do on the road, especially in a hostile environment in Detroit, who hasn't been relevant for however many years. And now it seems like they're going to hit the gas running here. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this game unfolds, just like every other game on this wild card weekend. But start fast. That's the only way the Commanders can win this game. Start fast and continue to put on pressure on the Lions. You have no pressure walking into this game if you're the Commanders. You won your playoff game. You already exceeded expectations. Just go out there, have fun, do what you need to do, take care of business, limit mistakes, and see what you could do to shock the world and lose people their parlays. That's for sure.
Yeah, I do think Jaden Daniels, his mobility could cause some issues for the Lions, especially because even though they got Anzalone back, they're still pretty beat up on defense. But again, I think the Lions offense is gonna have a really good showing against the Commanders.
I am obsessive over Jaden Daniels. This guy just walked into enemy territory in the against the Bucks and won a road playoff game in his first year. I mean, what that does to elevate a franchise and just props to the Commanders for completely switching up that entire franchise and coming out into 2024 and putting just like all this pressure on the NFC East teams And they're now on the map now. Like everybody knows the Commanders are a team to not mess around with anymore, right? And why is that? It's because of that quarterback. And it's because now Terry McLaurin's breaking out. Jaden Daniels is a stud, and he's going to continue to be a stud for years to come. As a Giants fan, I'm nervous, but I mean, you have to respect it because they've been such the little brother for the last however many years that now it's pretty impressive to watch, and it's pretty cool to see. You just see a team that starts out from the bottom and just work their way up slowly. And after atrocious drafting and you know what they passed up on in the Chase Young draft, they passed up on Tua, they passed up on Herbert, they passed up on these guys um, in the old regime. But now, I mean, the future's looking bright, and it's very exciting to see. And I hate any NFC East team, but the Commanders are it's a very cool team to see grow.
Yeah. I mean, we saw week one, the development. Jane Daniels' debut was against Tampa, and he did not look very good for the most part. They scored a touchdown like right at the end to make it more respectable, the final score. But the Bucs defense, for the most part, like very much limited Jane Daniels, and obviously that was his rookie debut. I don't think we were expecting him to like light it up or anything. But obviously, you started against the Bucs, and now you're on the road in Tampa, primetime playoff game. Todd Bowles, I'm not very high on him as a head coach, but hell of a defensive coach, very aggressive, his blitz schemes and such. And I mentioned the Bucs offense was moving the ball. It feels like the Commanders were doing the same thing. They were moving the ball. The only reason they got stopped, I feel like, is because the fourth down conversions that they failed to get. And one of them should have been a holding or a PI in the end zone there anyway. But that was obviously very impressive by Jane Daniels and company. Super impressive to see his development this year. Yeah, I think sky's just up for the Washington moving forward.
Yeah, I've been very impressive with this offensive line throughout the year as well. I thought that was going to be a huge problem going into the year this year. And of course, when they versed the Giants earlier in the year, I was watching this offensive line, and they were very good against a team that had a good defensive line. Like we had Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon, and we were pushing the pace against them. But Jaden Daniels just escaping the pocket, using his legs, buying time down the field, which made receivers open. And that's the thing. Like this guy is a stud, and it's incredible to see what he's going to do down the road. And that's what a franchise quarterback does to a team. Completely transforms them. That year was a very stacked quarterback class. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, it's gonna be pretty exciting to see what these guys are gonna do down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, game-winning drive. Then even the play that set them up in field goal range, it was the third and one. I think it was Yaya Diaby like read it perfectly, just couldn't bring Jane Daniels down. Jane Daniels scrambled for it, set him up for the game-winning kick too. That's as clutch as you can get, pretty much.
Yeah, I've never seen a kicker shit his pants more visibly than
Yeah, I
Zane.
know.
Oh my gosh, this guy, I don't know, I can't even count how many times this guy tried to fix his hair,
I know.
getting out into the field. I was like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry for you. Like, this is gonna defy your career if you miss this. And of course, it hits the post and somehow goes in. But shout out to Logan. He was at that game. He went to Tampa for that game, which is pretty cool. But um, yeah, I mean, what a game to go to. What a game to even see you know, on the broadcast. Pretty, very, very fun game that, like we said earlier, it was probably the best game of the wild card weekend.
Yeah, and it's obviously a tough loss for the Bucks, but I think even a Tampa one, I think the Eagles certainly would have handled them next week. So I think even if they had won, it would have just been prolonging the inevitable by a week, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
Obviously a disappointing year for, well, not a disappointing year, but game result for the Bucks rather. They're another team that's kind of not as bad as the Steelers, but it's like with Todd Bowles at least, it's like they're a 9-10 win team, but like really how far can they go? And they can't get much worse. They're in a weird spot too, sort of.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Um, so yeah, and last game, Vikings Rams. We both felt we both picked Vikings, thought it would be close. Uh, Shocked at how poorly the Vikings played. More so Sam Darnold and the offense in general. Because even though the defense let up a bunch, I mean, seven of it was off a scoop and score. They should have had a fumble that they ran back. That was a correct call on like a dumb rule that favors the offense, I think.
Reminds
But
me of the Tuck roll a little bit, huh?
yeah, oh yeah, the tuck rule. I actually saw a video of that the other day that happened against us in the regular season, and went against us. So at least we got it. We got the beneficiary end of it when it mattered more, at least against the Raiders that year. But yeah, I'm shocked at how that game went.
I am too. I was very surprised because I thought the Vikings were going to make adjustments to, come into this game, and it seemed like I really didn't like what Kevin O'Connell was drawing up.
Me
Oh,
neither.
like I know it was like fourth down. They were trying to push the ball down the field going deep, and there was no check down option for Sam Darnold, and the pressure got to him. I don't think a lot of this game was on Sam Darnold. And I know that's a little bit of a hot take right now, but I think that it was not a good game. Okay. But Kevin O'Connell definitely put him in a situation to lose this game. It was atrocious play calling. I wish that I really wish that when he goes into this free agent period, a lot of people were saying that a lot of money is going to get ticked off just from that, from these last two performances. But I think Sam Darnold is not a bad quarterback. I think he was the same quarterback that he was a couple weeks ago. I do not think that this game defined him. And I think it's a poor coaching job on Kevin O'Connell's end.
Yeah, I'm a big Kevin O'Connell guy. I've always thought he's been super underrated, but I agree with the play calling this game. I mean, even late in the game, you're down three scores, so I mean, you have to know you're probably not going to win the game, but it's like you have to at least try, especially, a playoff game. You lose, you're done, and they're running the ball on first down with like 7 minutes left. It's like, what are you doing? Like, you got to go no huddle. You got to at least try to take some deep shots here. And that's something Kevin O'Connell, it seems like one flaw he has, he does get a little too pass heavy at times. And you'd like to ideally see him mixing the run a bit more, making a more balanced offense. But I mean, it's good you don't want to abandon the run, but he was calling the run more than he should have. And in that situation, when you're down that big, and obviously the line played awful. There was a couple I think that when Darnold was sacked 9 times, I think probably like half of them were on him for holding the ball too on. The other half were just the line just being awful. It was just a mess for the Vikings.
It really was. And it's funny because, I mean, for the Rams on the flip side is, yeah, like momentum, right? Here it is. Like, this is the start of a momentum builder, right? Now, that defense played really good as well. The Rams defense played really good. And, Sean McVay and this Rams team, look out because they're going to come in swinging. And I think it's going to shock a lot of people because this momentum's change. And just because of this game alone, with what Dan Campbell said to Kevin O'Connell in that last game, um, yeah, look out. This Rams team's not going to be taking every team lightly. So.
Yeah, the see you in 2 weeks. They use that as bulletin board material.
Yeah, good job by the coaching staff to make that a big like scenario. Like way to make that like a big thing
Yeah,
because that's such a good motivational like way for the players to get amped up to go out and play the game, right? You're looking for that little spark, and it seemed like Dan Campbell didn't mean to make it a spark, but he made it a spark. And I mean, what a way to just highlight that as a motivational thing going into that game. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I did see a scenario where it kind of played out a little bit where the Rams offense has been like very like quiet the past couple weeks with Stafford and company in there. And it's like they've been winning because their defense. And it's like, what the hell is happening with Stafford? He's like getting washed allegations thrown at him. I'm like, I could just totally see him coming in red hot. And that's exactly what happened. They started off, they went right down the field, scored. and then the Vikings defense settled in a bit, and then the Rams offense kind of picked it back up. But I agree with you. I definitely would be looking out for the Rams. I think the Eagles are going to win, but I would not be too surprised if the Rams, especially how well that defense is playing, if they pull off the upset in Philly.
Yep, I agree. I wouldn't be shocked either. And anything can happen on wild card week or divisional weekend as well. If that's the thing is how do the Rams adjust to the Eagles offense? Right? I mean that's how it is this high pace or you know with Saquon Barkley, how do they adjust with Saquon Barkley? Right? Do they stack the box like we said before? How do you put pressure? Do you blitz, Jalen Hurts to make him flustered in the pockets where he has to escape and then the edge gets, clean up coverage sacks? Like what's the formula to try to pursue pressure on this Eagles offense? And it hasn't been a lot of things haven't been working for teams in the past. So, what's going to happen? That's why I'm going to actually pick the Eagles to win because I think that's more of a safer bet. But I would not be shocked if this Rams team comes out swinging. I mean, this momentum in the NFL, I believe is a real thing. I think momentum as a player. I've played football in the past. Um, I think that momentum really does change and swings. And as a player, you feel that. And when you're having fun, celebrating with the guys on the sides, especially as a culture thing, as that Rams defense did against the Vikings, I can only imagine it trickling into the next game.
Yeah, yeah. Momentum is definitely, I mean, we saw that momentum literally just derailed the Bears' entire year and propelled, well, the Commanders, I think, were going to have a good year regardless if they lost the game, but definitely helped propel them to the year they had. And I mean, we did see the Rams and the Eagles played in the regular season, and it was a close game up until the fourth, kind of back and forth, and then Saquon kind of went berserk late. I think I don't think Saquon's going to go as berserk. Not that it's Super Bowl because he had like 200 something rushing yards, but I think the Rams offense is, or sorry, the Rams defense, I think it's going to be able to kind of limit the Eagles offense a little bit. I have the Eagles at 27, but I think the Eagles defense is gonna end up being able to make the Rams offense kind of look like it has prior, besides this game, to like how it looked with Stafford and company the past couple weeks. So what do I have? I have a 27-20 final for that game, but again, would not I'm sure the Eagles are big favorites. I don't think I've seen the line, but would not be too surprised if the Rams won that.
I think I had 27-24. So we're
Yeah.
very close. I mean,
And
it's so close, but
yeah, I
close
I
game.
feel comfortable saying it's going to be somewhere both teams are in the 20s, somewhere around that range.
Yep.
Maybe the Eagles, I don't really see them scoring 30 plus, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, facts. Yep.
Um, all right, so I think the only thing we haven't really discussed is arguably the game of the year, Ravens Bills in the divisional round. That is, I honestly think. All right, so I had the Ravens winning the Super Bowl. I had this as my second round pick originally, and I had 27-24 Ravens. I'm going to stick with that for my score prediction, but I think regardless of which either team wins, I think they'll be beating the Chiefs. And at least I'm going to pray to God that they beat the Chiefs in the conference championship. But this is going to be one hell of a game.
That's for sure. The Ravens are home, right?
Yeah,
Or, or
on the
the
road.
no, no,
Buffalo's at home.
Buffalo's home. I don't care. Give me the Ravens. Give me the Ravens.
I
I It seems like I hate this Bills team. I really don't. I actually really like this Bills team, but I don't know. There's just something about this Ravens team. I'm really excited to see how they're gonna perform because I don't know. There's something about this team, and I don't know if it's the RPO system that they or run heavy packages that they have, along with Derrick Henry and Lamar, and how dual threat that is, how much of a dual threat that is. How and also everything that opens up in the pass game because of those two, right? It's just I don't know. They've really just found a way to open up this offense in a run heavy scheme, and I really think that this is a Super Bowl team. So I'm gonna stick with the Ravens. and I think it's going to be. I think I said my score prediction. I think I said
Uh,
30. I'm going to go 34-23 Ravens, which is
well,
a little bit of a high scoring game, but
yeah.
I don't know. I like it. 34-23. A little bit of a hot take. I think there's going to be a defensive touchdown in there somewhere too.
Yeah, like you said, just something about this Ravens team. And I'm not a Ravens fan by any means. I'm a Pats fan, but just something about this Ravens team. I'm just feeling them this year. Like you were just talking about momentum being a thing. I think they got hot at just the right time. That they have like the top ranked defense since week like 11, I think was the stat they showed since they moved I think Kyle Hamilton back a little bit in the secondary, something like that, and they're just clicking at the right time. And then even when they were still figuring some things out, these teams played each other earlier in the year, and the Ravens just completely dominated the game. Derrick Henry went berserk, and the Bills' run defense to me is still kind of a question mark. And when you're going against Derrick Henry, that's because the potential for a significant problem. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's their bread and butter. I mean, it's the run game. So the more that they can incorporate, Derrick Henry into the offense, it opens up everything for Lamar to look down the field. It opens up everything for Lamar to use his legs. And I'm very excited to see this game because here comes in Buffalo. What's the weather going to be like? If it's going to be weather dependent, I think it does favor the Bills just because they're used to this. They've done this before. And they've played through snow this year against the Niners. However, there's something about, like you said, what I said. I think the Ravens are just more of a complete team, and I think they take this one.
yeah. I mean, like the Bills, this was going into the year, people expected the Bills, they just lost Diggs. It was like, okay, well, I'm sure they're going to win the division, make the playoffs, but, they're probably not going to be contending for a Super Bowl. So I think you can even argue that the Bills have overexceeded a bit this year. I just think the Ravens match up with the Bills well. It's something my gut is just really feeling this Ravens team.
Yep,
I
I
just pray either one of them beats the Chiefs. That's all I care about at this point.
100% agree. I know it's yeah, the Ravens are a scary team, and it's crazy how the two teams that could potentially beat the Chiefs are versing.
Yeah, I know.
So, of course,
I honestly think the Ravens have a better chance at beating the Chiefs than the Bills. I I don't know. Like obviously the Bills beat them earlier in the year, but you can say that like every regular season, and then the Chiefs just beat them in the playoff. It would just be so ironic if it was Bill or a Ravens Chiefs conference championship with how the season opened. Isaiah likely being out of bounds by like a literal inch. The Ravens would have gone for two. Would they have gotten it? Who knows? But they lose in heartbreaking fashion, and then they eliminate the Chiefs, get to the Super Bowl. That would be quite the story.
yeah, and you also said that the Ravens got hot at the right time, right? That team didn't even start kicking off until, like you said, like later in the year, right? So you're versing a Ravens team at the best, um, you know, part of their season. They're getting hot at the right time. Everything's clicking for them. I think that they're gonna come down with this win against the Bills. And I mean, we'll see. We'll analyze that next game against the Chiefs when we do their next podcast, if that happens. But whether it's the Bills, whether it's the Ravens, it's going to be tough for this team, for one of those teams to beat the Chiefs. But we'll have to pick our poison with that one as well.
Yeah, hopefully we're both wrong. The Texans can somehow pull off a miracle. But
Like I said, zero chance. I think
if
there's zero
well,
chance.
we know if the Texans somehow miraculously win, the winner of if Baltimore Buffalo is almost certainly going to the Super Bowl. At least we'll know that.
If there was a lock of the week that I had in sports, it's the Chiefs beating the Texans. I
Yeah,
think it's going to be a complete beatdown.
yeah,
I don't know what it is. I'm not a fan of this Texans team. I think they've partially gotten lucky, which is pretty weird to say right now, but I, I don't know. They just don't remind me of a top team in this playoffs, and I think it's going to show this week.
yeah. I yeah, I'm with you. So we had pretty similar wild card picks for the most part. I think we we have the same divisional round picks as far as winners, at least. I know obviously we both have the Chiefs. I think we both have the Lions, the Eagles, and the Ravens. So we're on the same page with winners, losers for all those games at least. Hopefully this is more entertaining, like at least like back and forth close game than the wild card. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's 100% with that as well. Yeah. I think I think a sleeper game though is going to be the Lions and Commanders.
Yeah,
I think it's just because of how aggressive I think that the Commanders are going to come out. I think that's a game to watch this week.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. I think we covered uh all what we were gonna cover. Do you have any last minute thoughts or anything you wanted to talk about?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered everything. Yeah, we'll just have to, keep watching as the season progresses and, we're getting closer and closer to the Super Bowl and teams are getting eliminated left and right. And it's gonna be exciting to see how this season plays out. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess with that being said, I will end our podcast here. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys wanted to check out our last podcast, that was a pretty good episode, I think. Feel free to do that. But yeah, I'll end the video here. I'm sure we'll record another one shortly, probably after the divisional round. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed. Have a good one and take it easy, guys.